Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Hello and welcome to the Audit, Finance, Administration Committee for Thursday, October the 5th. Joining me in the chamber today, Councillor Tammy Huang and Councillor Mike Spadafora, and joining me remotely, Councillor Jeff Beattie, Councillor Mark Taddison, Councillor Alex Wilson, and Councillor Maureen Wilson. I'm Councillor Cameron Critch. I've been chairing today's meeting, and we have quorum. So I'll call the meeting to order. A reminder that if you have electronic devices that are prone to making noises, please ask them to cease and desist. And immediately we're on to approval of agenda item number 2. Clerk Bates, are there any changes to today's agenda?
Yes, we do have some changes to the agenda today, Chair Critch. We have one new delegation request at item 6.1 from Jason Hurd from Fairway Electrical Services respecting the city's letter to Fairway dated September 18th, 2023. That's item 10.4. We have one new discussion item, which is not really a new item. Item 10.4, commercial relationship between the City of Hamilton and Fairway Electrical Services, Inc., LS 23032, FCS 23101 citywide. This item was originally on the agenda as 14.3 and was moved as it was in fact not a confidential report. And then similarly, item 14.3 under private and confidential, Appendix A to commercial relationship between City of Hamilton and Fairway Electrical Services, Inc., LS 23032, FCS 23101 citywide. The appendix remained as item 14.3, but the report, of course, was moved to 10.4.
Thank you very much for notifying us of all those movements. May I please have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda as amended? I see Councillor Taddison, seconded by Councillor Huang, and we will go to the electronic vote if there's no discussion. Not seeing any. The vote is up. And that vote carries 7-0. Now moving on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to declare for today's meeting? Seeing no jutting hands, we'll move on to item 4, the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. That's item 4.1 is September 21st, 2023. May I please have a mover and seconder to approve the minutes of the September 21st meeting? I see Councillor Huang, and then I saw Councillor Spadafora as a seconder. Is there any discussion on the approval of the minutes from our last meeting? Not seeing any, so the vote will be up. And it is. And those minutes are officially carried. We're on now to delegation requests. And 6.1 is Jason Hurd from Fairway Electrical Services respecting the city's letter to Fairway dated September 18th, 2023. Item 10.4, and it's for today's meeting. I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the delegation request as presented. Moved by Councillor Spadafora and seconded by Councillor Beattie. Any discussion on today's delegation request? Not seeing any, we'll go to the vote.
Pardon me, that was Councillor Beattie seconded, and who was the
mover was Councillor Spadafora.
Spadafora. Yep. Thank you very much.
And that vote is up.
Just waiting for Councillor Wilson.
I don't see Councillor Maureen Wilson on the screen any longer. So
Councillor Wilson is having some audio problems, so she's going to log off and log back in.
Okay. Good luck to you, Councillor Maureen Wilson, with your logging off and in again. I hope the robots cooperate. And that carries 6-0. So we're on to delegations. So I'd like to call Jason Hurd to come up and turn your camera on at this time. Just a reminder that for our members here that questions of delegates are for clarification purposes only and not for engaging in debate. And Jason, just so you know what's going to happen if you're listening, there'll be some dings during your presentation. So the 4-minute ding and the 5-minute ding. You get 5 minutes for your delegation. You'll hear a warning ding at the 4-minute mark and then another one at the 5-minute mark when your time is up. If you're still talking past the 5-minute mark, I'll ask you to wrap up, and then there's an opportunity for folks here to ask questions. Otherwise, take it away.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Thank you. Madam Mayor and members of the Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee, my name is Jason Hurd. Good day, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today regarding the letter I received from the city on September 18th, 2023. The purpose of this letter was to advise Fairway that the city staff would be recommending to yourselves that the city not accept any bids from or otherwise enter into any contracts with Fairway for some period of time. This is due to an ongoing litigation between Fairway and the City of Hamilton, an action that was commenced by Fairway a year and a half ago, but which only now seems to merit a ban being imposed. Before I get into the particulars of why this is extremely disappointing and equally frustrating, let me tell you a little bit about myself and Fairway Electrical. I am the current president of Fairway. I am the third generation of electricians who have called Hamilton both home and a place of work. I have 2 young children and a wonderful wife at home. My daughter is 9 and my son is 6. Both children are learning how to study hard at school and love to play the game of hockey. I coach both kids' teams, and I volunteer as the initiation director for the Ancaster Minor Hockey League. I am also the acting vice president of the Hamilton Halton Construction Association, where I give my time to advocating for thousands of people working in the construction sector. I enjoy volunteering and giving back to the community whenever possible. Fairway was founded in 1991 by my father, Cal Hurd. Since then, the company has grown into one of the city's most recognizable electrical utility contractors. We employ 85 amazing, local, and very talented people. We currently call the old Ancaster Maintenance Yard home. As you may know, this is a city facility that was falling apart until Councillor Ferguson and I struck a long-term lease agreement where I promised to revitalize the property over time. Since then, Fairway has poured nearly $700,000 into this Hamilton-owned property. Fairway has also landed on Canada's fastest growing companies list, as well as the City of Hamilton's Fast 40 list 2 years in a row. Although the accomplishments and the accolades have been plenty, our greatest accomplishment to date was when we first turned the lights on at Tim Hortons Field in 2015, after a grueling 24-month project. Since then, we've continued to become a staple in the city. We've replaced all of the streetlights for LED and have maintained them since 2017 with a near perfect record. We've built countless intersections, wired multiple parks, and let many pathways throughout the community. We've also maintained all major distribution systems within the city facilities and answered every call when a serious problem arose. We've done all of this while building and maintaining an unbelievable rapport with multiple city departments, staff, and the public community. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm very grateful for it. We are incredibly proud to provide outstanding service for the best price. We compete for every contract and are awarded and are selected based on the value we bring to the city. Since 2017, Fairway has won multiple contracts directly with the city. The margin between Fairway and the second best price has totaled over $2.4 million during this time. This does not include any contracts where Fairway has been sole sourced by various city departments, which happened again just last week. This happens because our team is trusted. This happens because our team is fair. This happens because our team is capable. On an annual basis, Fairway donates generously, both financially and in man-hours, towards local charities and community events. We buy and deliver food to the needy, wire homes for the less fortunate, and support young athletes through team sponsorship throughout the city. Ancaster Community Services and others can attest. In other words, Fairway exactly the type of business you want to be a part of the Hamilton community. Now, unfortunately, all of the hard work and dedication toward the city and our community is being threatened. Our reputation is being tarnished due to an action which Fairway felt it had no other option but to commence. I will not go into the particulars of why Fairway had to file a claim against the city today. This isn't the platform for that, and that's what the courts are for. Barring Fairway achieves nothing positive and only serves to hurt Fairway, our employees, the city of Hamilton, and its community at large. The fact is, the dispute in question that has led to this recommendation isn't worth a fraction of the value that Fairway has and will continue to deliver to the city, multiple charities, and the surrounding community. In addition, the timing in which it has been made, I would suggest, does not reflect a decision made in the best interest of anyone, and I expect better from the city. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Delegate Hurd. I will look now to my colleagues to see if anybody has any follow-up questions for you at this time. I don't see questions for you. Thanks so much for coming here today and for giving your delegation, and you can stick around watching through YouTube for the rest of the meeting. Otherwise, thanks for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Since there are no questions, we're going to move to receiving the item. Can I have somebody move that we receive the delegation? Moved by Councillor Spadafora, seconded by Councillor Alex Wilson. And at this point, are there any questions, public questions for staff? I don't see any questions for staff, so we'll go to the vote. That vote is up. That carries 7-0. Now we're on to consent items, and the consent items will be received together at the end as we usually do here. It's our fun style. Item 9. 9.1, before we get there, I need a mover and seconder to put these consent items 9.1 through 9.5 on the floor. Councillor Huang, seconded by Councillor Spadafora. And we'll go through them one by one. 9.1 is a 2023 second quarter emergency non-competitive procurements report, FCS 23019A. Are there any questions on this item for staff? I'm not seeing any, so we'll go to 9.2, a similarly named report, the 2023 second quarter non-compliance with the procurement policy report, FCS 23020A. Any questions for staff on this item? I see Councillor Alex Wilson.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Apologies, as I think this came up the last time we had this quarterly policy, but I'm just wondering, when there is a violation of the policy, we see a couple different departments here. What does that follow-up look like? I'm assuming it's a education-based approach. We're trying to kind of continuously improve, ideally getting this to an empty report every quarter. Would it just be possible to get a response as to what some of those efforts have been like, and if we're noticing year over year we're getting these quarterly, but I wonder if there's maybe a comment on if that number is kind of shrinking or growing, or if there's a trend line as well.
Yes, I'm not sure who from staff would like to reply, but go ahead.
Do I have the floor?
You do. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, through the chair, Tina Ayako, Manager of Procurement. The P19s, whenever one is brought to procurement's attention, we work with finance usually, who are the last line of defense, if you will, that bring this to our attention, and we discuss with the client groups how it's come to be, and if in future, if they were to have this type of procurement in the future, what we would expect or require them to do under the policy. So for each one of these, I'm sorry, Councillor, I can't tell you at the moment what due diligence procurement's done at this time. I can certainly follow up with an email back to you to talk to the client departments and to make sure that they have an understanding for future procurements. Not sure if there's anything else you would like to see on this report that would satisfy your concerns, or any gaps in information, but we're willing to look at that for you. Thank you.
Through the chair, really appreciative of that answer. Again, I think was just looking for confirmation, not a concern so much, but just a clarification that there is that process in place, and some high level details about what that is. So appreciate that. I can imagine, I think I'm recalling that the last time we got one of these quarterly updates, there was also a counselor's office. I know our office, as we've been kind of doing events, not wanting to appear on this list, has been very careful in reaching out proactively. I'm just wondering if one of us, makes an honest mistake, whatever, obviously we're trying to catch this ahead of time. I'm wondering, when the education goes out afterwards, is there an opportunity for all of our offices to get that education and have it sent out as like a memo or something less personal to the specific office? I'm just wondering, again, the governance structure where our counselor offices act as almost 15 individual departments within the organization. And so if there's a way to, when there is a mistake made or when there's a violation of policy, if there's lessons learned, if those could be shared with all of our offices. I don't know if that's possible, but I think that would be really appreciative. I would certainly be appreciative because I can understand or be sympathetic to how these could happen.
Through the chair, of course, that's a great idea. What we can do is that a few months ago, when council came into office, we did a 101 refresher with HR. We can certainly look at hosting one of those again on the procurement side. And then what we can also do is possibly put an FAQ document together. And we'll take a look at the P19s in the past to see if there's some commonalities, and then possibly develop some FAQs and then have that on the ENET, and we can circulate that to the councillors' offices as well.
Thank you. Through the chair, my last point here is if that's what staff think is the right next step, absolutely happy to kind of trust their judgment on kind of getting this gap to zero. I don't think in terms of a dollar amount, it's been the councillors' offices that are the driving force, but I think this is my second time kind of recalling that we've had an office in there and going, oh, if there's a way to do that, that'd be great. But again, there's obviously more there. So if that's where staff want to go, I was just kind of getting a sense of what is this. So I appreciate the discussion, and that's all for me.
Anybody else want to add before we go to Councillor Maureen Wilson? City Manager Jeanette Smith.
Through the chair, I would also add what I do is I take this report and it goes on our next senior leadership team table, so we all get a line of sight of it and look and see if we've got systemic issues across the board in one department. Maybe there's been turnover and we haven't done sufficient education as new people are brought on board, et cetera, et cetera. So we do look at it as well.
Thank you. Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. My question is with respect back to 9.2 Appendix A. Normally, and in this case, I have put my questions in advance, and I always get a very thorough answer, but I missed this one, and if I was asked by the public, I wouldn't know the response. There's a small item, I think, for about $147, Amazon Canada, and in the table, it says a personal item description not offered, and perhaps related to Councillor Alex Wilson's question, if someone could educate me on the fact that the description wasn't even provided, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure, who wants to respond to that? Manager Iacco, did you want to respond to that, or did somebody else wish to respond to that?
Through the chair, I can take a stab at that.
You have the floor.
Thank you. For this particular P19 report, procurement was not given specific details with respect to that procurement. Sometimes the GM and the department feel that the information is not to be disclosed to procurement because possibly there may be some discipline or they're dealing with it internally. What I can suggest, if you would like us to go back to this particular client group and find some more information, we can certainly follow that up with an email as well. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson, does that satisfy your question? Or go ahead, GM Mater, if you want to respond also.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Through the chair, Grace Mater, General Manager, Healthy and Safe Communities. Cliff Eggleton from the paramedics is actually online. I would like to direct the question over to him if he's able to respond, please.
Hi, Cliff.
Yes, Cliff.
Thanks so
Hi,
much.
sorry, my camera's not on, but Cliff Eggleton, Executive Manager of Paramedic Services. That specific purchase was a staff member who utilized the corporate P card instead of their personal card on an Amazon personal purchase. She as you know, they hold your credit cards in the system when you order something. So it inadvertently used the corporate one. She immediately let us know, filled out the form, paid paid them the currency back to the city. But we didn't own, we just found out it was a personal purchase. We didn't ask exactly what she purchased because it was a personal purchase off of Amazon, which was refunded back.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, do you have any further questions?
Of course, no, I really appreciate that explanation. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And Councillor Huang, if you could take the chair, I'd appreciate it. I just wanted to follow up briefly on Councillor Alex Wilson's sort of line of inquiry and just a couple comments I think that are helpful. I think there are probably some obvious things that when you're in a councillor's office, you think, oh, I need to order that thing. There's an urgency, whatever it might be. So you might think, well, we probably have a preferred vendor for that thing because it's something we normally order. And there are situations where that's not the case. And I think what I run into a few times has been either, a timing issue is what it boils down to, right? How do you satisfy something that might be urgent? And I'm not suggesting what's on the report today is that thing. I'm just saying that there are all kinds of times when I think, and I'll be honest, the internal systems and otherwise procurement systems we have for doing these things aren't exactly the most user-friendly at times, right? I'm not sure if anyone here has tried to order business cards, but it's it can sometimes be cumbersome to do so. Putting in an order, the order then transports itself to the universe, comes back, it's in a different form, so forth and so on. Is required clicking in approvals and all these different things. So I'm not sure that all of that training has really been provided to councillors or their offices in terms of like what does this look like legibly? And we do talk about this from a very high level, and we use the word procurement a lot. Well, I'm never going to use the word procurement in my brain when I'm thinking about ordering resources for my office. I'm not thinking of procuring anything. So at the first cognitive step, I think that's a big leap too, is just thinking, well, how do I get something? I don't want to use the city's preferred, people for printing posters. I want to go outside. What are the requirements? So I think that, and I've suggested this before, there could be other orientation offered over the 4 years. We tend to think, oh, well, we have this one orientation at the beginning. Everyone's rather new to the process and is trying to get a bearing on a number of things. And the information received in a brand new learning environment like that has to be extremely deliberative. And it's why universities do orientations in the way that they do them, because when you're in a new learning environment, it can sometimes be difficult to figure these things out. So I'm just suggesting that these kinds of things that become operationalized over the years could be the source of future orientations for folks, and us all being around the table to be present for those orientations, I think would be helpful, and I'll leave it there. Just wanted to offer that suggestion. Thanks. Take the chair back, and also leave my microphone on, and we'll go on to 9.3, which is the 2023 second quarter request for tenders and proposals report, FCS 23-021A. Are there any questions on this report? I'm not seeing any questions. We'll go on to 9.4, the Greitmeyer Arena Lessons Learned Audit 22004, Management Responses Status Report, which was an outstanding business list item. Are there any questions on this item? Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. If I could ask staff to give a brief overview, that would be appreciated.
Director Maher? Okay, go ahead, yeah.
Thank you. Indra Mahajan, Director for Corporate Facilities and Energy Management. Through Chair, the Q3 2023 Management Responses Status Update Report for the Greitmeyer Arena Lessons Learned Audit 22004. The recommendations were originally issued on April 7, 2022. This status report includes management responses on the audit recommendations as of Q3 2023 from Corporate Facilities Energy Management and other responsible city departments, including corporate services, financial planning, administration and policy, procurement, legal services, risk management service divisions. All responsible divisions have been working on addressing the action items, and to date, the staff have completed 8 out of 15 recommendations, and the remaining action items are well in progress. The team last provided an update to Council and Committee in February 2023, and a subsequent report will be issued semi-annually going forward. Corporate Facilities and Energy Management also met with the Office of Auditor General in August to report on the progress up to date, and representatives from OAG and all city departments are in attendance to answer any questions related with each individual action items in this meeting today. Thank you.
Councillor Maureen Wilson, did you have any specific questions following up that?
No, I didn't. I appreciated the table and the visuals, and there was some I was particularly interested in terms of their status. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And Councillor Wang, if you can take the chair again, I had a couple of questions. Usually when we're seeing the management response to an audit, it comes in a slightly different format and goes through each one saying the management agrees, management doesn't. And that's where we had this original report, was in that format. This report is in a different format, and so it's a little more difficult for me to tell, based on reading it, if there's any outstanding items with which management doesn't agree with the auditor. My memory doesn't tell me the answer from the previous report, so I was wondering if you could answer that question. Is management in agreement with all the audit recommendations?
Director Maharajan.
Through Chair, thank you for the question. Because I'm new, I'm going to defer this to my staff. Shaba, if you can answer the question because you have the history. Sorry, Jim can.
Good morning, Shaba Shringi, Senior Project Manager for the Quality Management Office in the CFEM Division. Through the Chair, yes, management did agree with all of the responses, some with modification, which is what we responded to, just to clarify how we would be addressing them. But to answer your question, we agreed with all of the responses and are implementing actions accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. My second question involves the unique system of arrows you're using here. We have this exciting blast off arrow, then we have the turn to the right angly arrow, and there's no legend on here that I've seen. So could you tell me what the difference between the exciting arrows is?
Of course, through the Chair. I don't know if it didn't print correctly. The top right corner does have a legend, albeit
there it is.
It looks smaller than the rest of them. I can just briefly walk through them.
The green arrow. High resolution, so I didn't see it. Now I see it that I'm scrolling in. Thank you. Never mind. I can see it. You don't have to read them out. It's there. Thanks very much. I appreciate you drawing my attention to that. I'll take back the chair, Councillor Wang. Thank you. Not seeing further questions on this, so move on to 9.5. Are the Mondialization Committee minutes from May 17th, 2023? Any question on these minutes? Not a source of discussion. We'll move to voting on 9.1 through 9.5, and we already have a mover and seconder. And that vote is up.
Just waiting for Councillor Taddison. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
That's everyone, and those consent items are carried 7-0. Now we're on to discussion items. 10.1, the Development Charges Stakeholders Subcommittee Report 23-002 from the meeting held on September the 18th, 2023. Can I have a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Moved by Councillor Huang, seconded by Councillor Spadafora. Are there any questions for staff on the report? Not seeing any. Would anybody like to opine or offer comments on the report? Not seeing any opinions wanting to be shared. We'll go to the vote. Thank you very much. That is carried 7-0. We're on to 10.2, the Integrity Commissioner and Lobbyist Registrar Appointment, FCS 23106. May I have a mover and seconder to put the report on the floor? Councillor Huang, Councillor Alex Wilson. I'll add myself to the list if there's anybody else who wishes to go before me, please. Are there any questions for staff on the report? Councillor Alex Wilson, take it away.
Just through you, Chair, wondering if staff would be able to talk a little bit more about the results of the RFP. I think in the report it talks about there was 3 applicants, and we went with the applicant that had the best value per point scored. Would they be able to provide a general comment about maybe how close it was, where the spread amongst the applicants was, or whatever further detail can be shared, while we're obviously respecting what can and cannot be made public?
Through the chair, Janet Pilon, acting city clerk. That information wouldn't be public.
Then that's all my questions. I was just looking for a little bit more detail, but then that's all good.
Thank you. And next up on our speakers, this is Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I had I had put this question into the city manager and I received her response, but I would like her response into the public record. The nature of my question was, are there any parameters that the municipality can place on the additional work practiced by the Integrity Commissioner? And I'm asking this question to uphold the trust and confidence, which I have confidence in this hire. The Auditor General's report with respect to the Greenbelt in one of the appendices had identified that another individual working as an integrity commissioner, I believe, for municipalities in Ontario was listed as the legal counsel for a party that was interviewed. So that just piqued my curiosity in terms of the capacity or the capacity of the municipality to know of other works, or what sort of professional norms go into informing any additional work that is taken on by an integrity commissioner. Thank you. So my question is to the city manager.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. And I did sit down and review this with Lisa Shields as our solicitor. And so the present and the proposed contract with our city's integrity commissioner do not prevent an IC from acting as lawyers for other parties, including developers and landowners. What the city's contract does prohibit is conflict of interest. There are a number of provisions in the proposed contract with the IC that speak to conflict of interest. And just one, I'll read one specific relevant one. The successful proponent shall not act in any case where there may be any conflict of interest between it or any of its directors, officers, or employees and the city. The successful proponent shall notify the city of and fully disclose to the city in writing and immediately upon same becoming known to the successful proponent any potential or actual conflict of interest that may arise or has arisen prior to entering into an agreement or during the performance of its duties under our IC agreement. The other thing that Lisa Shields did point out is that as lawyers at Bogosian and Allen LLP, who are new IC under this bylaw, because they're members of the Law Society of Ontario as well, they're regulated under the rules of professional conduct, and in particular, Section 3.4, whereby a lawyer has a duty to avoid conflicts of interest. So she feels within our own contract, as well as within the codes of conduct as members of the Law Society, that it would prevent any of those conflict of interests.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. I really appreciate that detailed response, and I'm very satisfied with it and the fundamental importance to uphold the public's trust and confidence in our institutions and those who work for and assist these institutions. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. And Councillor Huang, if you would take the chair. I just have a comment. Are there any other questions or speakers? I'm not seeing any, so I'll go to comments and I'll make a comment. I'd also reached out to staff to ask a few questions, and when the previous integrity commissioner had been before us, they'd stated on a number of occasions that neither of them were practicing lawyers, and so I think that distinction is worth making, and I'm glad that Councillor Maureen Wilson did, that there are a different set of codes of conduct for practicing lawyers than non-practicing lawyers, is my understanding. There's those professional, practicing standards. So that's a good thing to know about and to have at our disposal. I also want you to say that when I asked staff, the question was, look, we now have a law firm representing the city in this way. Previously, we had two rather easy to identify individuals who were our integrity commissioners, plural. Sometimes one would take on things and sometimes others would take on things, and sometimes they would both be involved in the case. And so I asked if the arrangement here would be similar, and I was just told that it would be, in terms of there are certain individuals who have identified themselves from the law firm who'd be involved in these things, and it would operate in a similar manner. I thought it'd be useful for people to know the different function here, like even though it's a law firm, they're still going to have a small group of people who may change from time to time, who will be acting on behalf of the city as integrity commissioners. I wanted to add that into the public record. I will go on to the next item if there's no one else. I see Councillor Huang actually, and take the chair back. Go ahead, Councillor Huang.
Thank you, Chair. Your comment just kind of prompted a secondary question in my brain. As we are clearing all of this and as we are ratifying this at some point at Council, perhaps I could ask Clerk Pilon, what is the rollout strategy on sharing this information both to Council and to the public?
Through the chair, as of November 1st, if the bylaw is enacted by council, the website will be updated with the new information. I will be meeting with the new IC to ensure that our forms are in a correct manner for them to receive them. So the public will be aware of the new IC through the website.
Just as follow-up through you, Chair, is there an opportunity to have these new ICs come and introduce themselves to Council so that way we can also ask some of these questions to them?
Through the chair, that could be arranged.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Huang. I'm not seeing anybody else emerging on the speaker's list, so we'll now go to the vote on 10.2. And that vote's up. That vote carries 7-0. We're on to 10.3, the Tax and Rate Operating Budgets Variance Report. As of July 31st, 2023, Budget Control Policy Transfers, FCS 23063A. May I have a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Moved by Councillor Huang. Seconded by Councillor Alex Wilson. Are there any questions for staff on the report? Okay, Councillor Huang. Yep.
Wonder if we could just get a quick overview on some of the differences from just a quick overview is what I'm asking for.
Okay, someone provide a quick overview? Thank you.
Through the chair, Mike Scarrick, General Manager, Finance Corporate Services. I'll start, and then I'll invite Director McMullen to add additional content. Firstly, this is the second of 3 scheduled variance reports. With respect to the projections for 2023, not materially different from our first variance report as it relates to the overall position. With respect to the tax operating budget, we are projecting a surplus of approximately $10.5 million. And this reflects a departmental operating deficit of about $5.7 million, offset by a capital financing surplus of about $16 million. So what are some of the factors that are contributing to both of those factors? Is with respect to the tax operating budget, some common themes that this committee and council would have heard as it relates to the 2023 budget. an earlier variance report for 2023, as well as we look forward to 2024. Inflation is a factor we see as relates to some of our contracts, inflationary pressures, whether they are the waste management contracts as an example, winter control as an example. So inflation is a factor that is resulting in some additional pressures relative to budget. As well as, I'll describe it as COVID hangover. There are approximately $24 million in continued costs as it relates to recovery. Offsetting those expenditures is approximately $14 million in funding from principally provincial government, leaving the city with approximately $9 million in unfunded pressures surrounding COVID recovery. And so that continues to be a factor as it relates to our 2023 projections. With respect to gapping, you'll see in this report is an increase in the projected gapping, while Council approved leveraging some gapping funding to assist with respect to the funding of some additional paramedic services in 2023. We're projecting approximately $11.9 million in gapping, and that represents a $4.5 million difference relative to what was budgeted for gapping of about $7.3 million. So gapping and gapping really speaks to vacancies and vacancies that are may be a result of short-term leaves, including maternity leaves, but also the gap as it relates to as individuals leave the organization, the time that it takes to recruit new individuals. And so there tends to be a gap there in terms of the recruitment. Shifting a bit to the rate-supported side, you'll see in the report that staff are projecting a rate-supported variance of approximately, let me just go back to my notes here, $2.6 million. And what is contributing to that variance are some of those factors that were mentioned during the 2024 projections. There are additional pressures tied to legislative changes around locates and the additional costs Hamilton Water is experiencing as it relates to utility locates, as well as excess soils, some additional costs as it relates to dealing with excess soils. And then finally, the theme of inflation as it relates to the cost for chemicals and utilities are a factor as well, contributing to the projected variance for the rate-supported budget. And finally, I'll invite Director McMullen if he has any additional observations or comments to share.
So through the chair, no, that's fine. Thanks, Mike.
So Chair, just to be super clear, because there was a lot of numbers in there, we had a forecasted budget surplus of 10 million, but actually when everything shakes out, we're looking at a net deficit of 2.5 million. Is that the most simplistic summary of that through you, Chair?
Through the chair, let me be a little clearer. The tax-supported projection is of a surplus of $10 million. And the piece that I left out explaining that is I highlighted some of the pressures on the operating side. It's the capital financing. We make assumptions with respect to when we issue debt and the cost of issuing debt. And we will not be issuing debt in 2023. We'll be issuing debt in 2024. So that delay is contributing in approximately $16 million in savings. So that is the contributing factor offsetting some of the operating deficits. And then with respect to our rate-supported program, I believe it is a deficit of approximately $2.6 million that we are projecting for those factors I summarized earlier.
Okay. So we're on track is essentially where we're going with this. Is that correct?
Through the chair, I would describe it as we are consistent in terms of our earlier projections for 2023. In terms of the final year end, I would expect the capital financing will not change. And so that provides some certainty with respect to offsetting some continued operating pressures. With respect to some of those other variables, inflation will have an impact, contracts will continue to have an impact for the balance of the year, and gapping may change as well. So the final year end may change, but again, in terms of some certainty that is positive is the capital financing will remain consistent by year end. With respect to the rate supported side, again, inflation will be a factor, whether that changes in terms of adding additional pressures. I don't expect it'll change to the favor for 2023 year end. But again, on the rate supported side, where we do have certainty is with respect to capital financing as well.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I always appreciate GM Zagaric and his very fulsome answers. I think sometimes I ask these very pointed summary kind of questions because sometimes there's too many numbers to kind of keep track of. So I appreciate the very fulsome answer, and I am happy to hear where we're at currently. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Huang. And up next on our speakers is Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you. The focus of my interest is on Appendix A, page 2 of 4. Under corporate facilities and energy management, there's a deficit of $115,000 in unrealized rent revenue. My questions are twofold. Could I just have some specifics on that? And maybe depending on the answer, my second question will be, if it is COVID related, is it a short-term experience? And or if not, will we be reviewing our facilities moving forward, and if there's been any shifts in need in the market? Thank you.
Through the chair to the councillor, I will direct that question to Director Maharan.
Thank you, councillor. Through chair, I will have to get back to you on that specific because I don't have a specific on that. But I think similar to airline, there were some rent that was delayed. So from the tenants might be related with that topic, but I will get back to you on this.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I do apologize. Normally, I do try to get my detailed questions in advance, and I didn't in this case. So, but the larger question of will we be having, or are we having a review of our facilities and their status due to any possible changes in use or anything of that nature? Thank you.
Thank you. Through Chair, Councillor Wilson, we have been working very closely with the real estate to look at, we have started the Yards Review Committee. There is recommendations from the Yards Review Committee, so we have set up working groups around reviewing how we use yards and whatnots. And I think with real estate, we'll be looking at some of these facilities on how we can efficiently optimize and use those facilities. I'll come back to the report, to the committee with more updates.
Thank you. So just so I understand, you'll be reporting to this standing committee on the status of our tenancies or use or optimization opportunities or lack thereof. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Maureen Wilson. I don't see any further speakers on the list for 10.3. So we will go to the votes if there's no comments. Not seeing any comments, we'll go to the vote. And that vote is up. And that vote carries, and we're on to 10.4, and I'll just do a brief review. Does anybody want to discuss the confidential portions of this report in closed session? I'm seeing a nod, or two, or three, even, with two. Councillor Tatterson's got two hands up for that. So we will defer the consideration of this item until after the in-camera session. So may I have a mover and seconder to do so? I'll take Councillor Huang and Councillor Spatafor, if that's okay, since you nodded first. And we'll have that vote now. Great, that carries. And now I'll turn the chair over to the Vice Chair, Councillor Huang, as I have a motion to introduce.
Perfect. Moving on to item 11.1 motions, Hamilton Police Services, Hamilton Public Library surpluses and deficit. Councillor Crutch, please introduce your motion.
Thank you. This motion is moved by me, and I forget who my seconder is, if I ever had one. So I need a seconder, I think, at this point. Okay, Councillor Huang is going to second it. Thank you. And I won't read it out in its entirety, but I will summarize it by saying that this was something I discussed and brought up about 2 or 3 meetings ago, and it's that city staff coordinate with Hamilton Police Services to prepare an amendment to the year-end closing process whereby council would receive and approve any Hamilton Police Services Board recommendations related to transfer funds to and from reserves, relating to year-end surpluses and deficits. And that's a mouthful, and the same for the library. It's a mouthful, but generally what it means is that we are approving budgets for these entities, and these two entities, according to staff, are distinct from other entities. They are funded by us, they have surpluses and deficits, and right now what we're doing is saying, here's a bunch of money. If you come in under the amount you asked for, as you wish with the rest of it. Doesn't seem to make any sense to me. They submit a detailed budget proposal itemizing what they're going to spend the money on. If they don't spend that money, they should have to come back here and say, we didn't spend it, we want to spend it on this, is that okay? That's the process here. Similarly, if they run a deficit and they don't have the adequate reserves, they should have to come back here and say, well, we can't pay for this expense. We don't have enough money. Let's have a conversation about that as well. So what this is doing is generating a conversation, so there's accountability. Right now, the accountability lies outside the organization with the Hamilton Police Services Board for the organization's money and for taxpayers' money. So I think we should have that conversation here when those situations occur, and not just leave it up to the Police Services Board to reallocate millions of dollars on things as they wish. Same with the library. I don't know enough about the library to speak in detail, but I can tell you that it certainly does happen regularly that the Police Services Board is reallocating money. So that's the motion, and thanks to my seconder.
Are there any speakers to this motion? Other speakers or questions to this motion? Okay. Seeing none, any comments on this motion? Seeing none, may I have the vote, please? And that carries 7-0. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, and we're now entering the closed session zone after we first check in to see if there are any other items of general information or other business. I'll give a gander. Gander concluded, no interest. So we'll move on now to private and confidential. And the first thing we'll do is we'll approve the closed minutes from our September 21st meeting before we put up the wall of silence. Moved by Councillor Spatafor and seconded by Councillor Tatteson to approve the closed minutes from September 21st, 2023. And we'll have that vote now. That vote is up, and that vote carries 7-0. So we're going to move into closed session now regarding 14.2 and 14.3, and I will read out the whole thing, but mover and seconder for that first. Moved by Councillor Huang, seconded by Councillor Spatafora. that we move into a closed session respecting items 14.2 and 14.3 pursuant to sections 9.3 subsections E, F, and K of the city's procedural bylaw 21-021 as amended, and section 239.2 of subsections E, F, and K of the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the city or a local board, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. Please indicate your vote now. Sorry, before we go into closed session, or before we vote on this, there might have been someone who wanted to speak on this issue. Is that correct?
Thank you, Chair. No,
Go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
sorry. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to alert my colleagues and anyone who's watching. I need to leave at 10:40 for a medical appointment. So if I'm not on screen and deemed or seen as a participant, that's why. Thank you. I'll be exiting during probably when we're in closed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we currently have 8 following us right now watching, just so you know. We will now have that vote to go into closed session. Councillor Huang is in favor.
And Councillor Crutch. Thank you.
Councillor Crutch is in favor. Okay, that carries. Members of the public, the meeting will continue following the closed session portion of the meeting when you see the members of the committee rejoin the meeting. We'll wait up to 5 minutes upon reconvening in open session before proceeding with the meeting to provide members of the public and the media time to return. Before we move into closed session, I'd ask all members of the public to please exit the council chambers and the WebEx meeting now. Thank you very much. A reminder to all members of committee to please ensure you move into the closed session portion of eScribe as we transition from open to closed. And we're back in open session for today's Audit, Finance, and Committee. So we're on to 14.2, which is the replacement of Legend software and review of the Explore Recreation software. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the following recommendations in the report? A, that the direction provided staff in closed session respecting the report be approved and remain confidential until negotiations are completed and contracts in place. B, that the report remain confidential and that the applicable resulting contract award information be publicly reported in the appropriate quarterly status reports for tenders and proposals. Have a mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Spatafor, seconded by Councillor Huang, and we'll go to the vote now. Everyone who isn't in open session, click to get yourself back there, as I'm doing now. In our eScribe software, I mean. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to click ourselves in different realities at this juncture. And that vote is up. That motion carries 6-0. Now we're on to 10.4, the commercial relationship between the City of Hamilton and Fairway Electrical Services Incorporated. May I have a mover and seconder to put the report on the floor? Moved by Councillor Spatafor, seconded by Councillor Taddison. Are there any questions for staff on the report in open session? Additional comments on the report? Okay, we are going to indicate our votes now. And the vote is up. And that carries 5-1. Now we're on to adjournment. We have a mover and seconder to adjourn, moved by Councillor Spatafor, seconded by Councillor Taddison. And we'll have that vote.
Sorry, the mover and the seconder was Councillor Spatafor and then Councillor Taddison.
To adjourn, yeah. And that vote is up. And that's carried 6-0, and that's it. See you
Thank you, Chair.
soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a good day.